Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to have you all on the Hear from Peers today. We have Dr. April Douglas as our speaker today. She is an instructional assistant professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, specializing in scientific writing for graduate students. With a focus on enhancing technical communication skill, Dr. Douglas helps students master their communication skill for both academic and industry settings, and is excited to explore ways that AI can enhance teaching and learning in the classroom. Dr. Douglas, the floor is yours. Feel free to start the presentation.
Thank you, Armando. Hi, everybody. I see some familiar names on here. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Dr. April Douglas, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about transactional versus transformational use of AI in the classroom. So I've spent the last several semesters, like many of you, kind of trying to teach myself and educate myself on all the changes going on in AI, how they might be impacting us in the classroom, and specifically how I can create meaningful teaching situations with my own students. AI is wonderful because it can make our lives easier, but our job really is to teach students while they're here. So as education is being transformed by AI, how can we use it to really be more impactful in the classroom? And I will say that I am coming to you as a person who is still very much learning themselves. And so I did the AI learning group through the Center for Teaching Excellence last semester. Loved it, learned so much. And I actually did another AI learning group through the higher education coordinating board over the summer. And we had one particular, we had a lot of great speakers in that group, but one particular speaker, Dr. Julie Schell from Texas University, who talked to us a little bit about this concept of transactional versus transformational use. And this particular lecture that she gave was really, for me, and where I was in my AI use and trying to figure everything out, was really eye-opening, and really created a space for me to be able to say, okay, am I creating the right kind of interactions with AI in my classroom, and how can I ensure that I'm doing that? So that's what I'm basing a lot of today's presentation on. So I'll start with a brief introduction, and we'll talk a little bit about what exactly is transformational versus transactional AI use. I've come up, this is my own personal kind of framework that I use with my students, and I'm hoping that perhaps you will be able to take something away from this framework, maybe make it your own for your own classroom. And I know we have a small group, but I'm hoping that maybe we can get into a breakout group or two, talk about your area of need, where you're teaching, and how you might apply this framework, or at least start asking some of the questions that will be helpful in applying this framework. And then we'll wrap up with talking a little bit about how to implement these strategies and doing a quick Q&A in case you guys want to ask any questions. Okay, so our purpose today, what my underlying idea here is for us to explore how AI technologies are reshaping how we teach in the classroom, and how we use these to either enhance or diminish the learning experience. Because depending on the application of almost all AI tools, I think there is potential for enhancement of learning or diminishing the learning process as well. And I very much advocate for using AI in a transformational manner. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like exactly. So we want to aim for deep engagement and critical thinking. Okay, so very quickly, so note where you think you might personally fall on these different descriptions of how you feel about AI. Are you up towards the top at number 1, AI enthusiastic, or are you more towards number 10, AI adverse, or are you somewhere in between? And I know that you can be probably more than one of these, and that's absolutely okay. But take a minute, look these over, and then I welcome you to drop in the chat 1 or 2 of these that describe you, okay? I would definitely say I'm like 2 and 3. Let me know where you are. All right, we've got a 5. Enthusiast, excellent. 1 and 2. Okay, good. So it seems like everybody here is pretty much on the positive end of AI, feeling good about it, and maybe a little curious and excited to see how you can use it in your classroom. Some of you are going full speed ahead. Some of you I know in here are going full speed ahead because I've talked to you a little bit about what you're doing in your classroom. So that's wonderful. Part of the reason I asked this question is that it's important for us to understand that we're all starting in different places, and I know there are definitely those of us out there that might still be a little bit concerned about how do I apply this? Is this really something that I want to try? I'm not sure, and that's okay. It's okay to be where you are with it right now. But one thing we can't deny is that it's absolutely changing the way that we teach, right? So how can we move towards feeling more comfortable with how we introduce AI in the classroom? Okay, so quick question, and feel free to drop your answer in the chat or just say it out loud. As AI becomes increasingly integrated into education, what are some experiences you've had so far with AI in your teaching? Do they encourage deep engagement, or do you feel like you're more still at the end where it's just streamlining larger tasks and that you would like to have more engagement?
You mean how have we used it?
Yeah, how you have used it, maybe even how you've thought about using it. And do you feel good that the way that you're using it is really deeply interactive for the students, or do you feel like you're still trying to figure that part out? Okay, Keegan said, I would like students to use AI as an assistive tool to create better products, outcomes, but often I find they just use it as at a simple level to outsource their own work. Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of us can empathize with that, Keegan. And Keegan, I would think is for that particular, maybe you're thinking of a specific assignment when you say this. So keep that assignment in the back of your head for right now. And I'm hoping that in just a minute we'll get to some of the framework pieces, and maybe we can apply that a little bit to see, is there a way to adjust that so that students are using it more as an assistive tool. Okay, Vanessa said, trying to learn new ways of engagement in contexts other than writing. Ah, yes, I struggle with that too, Vanessa, because I teach writing. But I often have discussions with faculty members and I'm not an engineer and I'm teaching the engineering department about ways that they can use it. So I struggle with the same situation. Dr. Paul says, I have seen it be used for syllabus design for new classes, and I have personally used it to develop conceptual questions for more problem-based courses. Students have used it to help debug code, excellent, and probably write the code. Good. Okay, Keegan had an extra credit last year where it gave them a long form prompt that asked the AI to be a reflective mentor, which asked about their values and how they spend their time. Generally, students enjoyed speaking with the AI because they felt there was less pressure judgment. Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, and Ron's still trying to figure out how to make this a deep engagement. Yeah, good. I know you're not alone, Ron. Yes. Some of them are using AI for the preparation for exams. Ask AI to create questions and answer them. Yeah, good. Excellent. So you guys are well on your way. We have a group that's well on their way too. exploring and using these. And so hopefully the information today will help you just start to really streamline some of this information and how you can use it. So let's talk about the difference between transactional and transformational. For most of you, I'm sure you've heard these two terms in different contexts, but transactional refers to using AI tools as a means to automate routine tasks, focusing on efficiency rather than higher level thinking. And some examples might be spell checkers, grading systems, fact recall tools, okay? Transformational refers specifically to the use of AI to promote higher level thinking, collaboration, problem solving, or creativity. Things such as peer review tools. I think it's the peer perceptive is a really good example. If you've seen Khan Amigo, Khan Academy's tutoring tool, that's a really great example of an AI tool that's meant to be transformational. It helps students, students can put in what they're struggling with, whatever concept it is, and instead of giving them the answers, it kind of guides them to getting the correct answer on their own. But really, if you think about it, any tool can be used in either one of these ways. The spell checkers can even be used in a more transformational way, as long as we have one critical piece, and that is the human in the loop, okay? So human not in the loop basically means that the human doesn't have to do anything, okay? The human takes the information that AI gives them and just regurgitates it or turns it in, just doesn't have to do anything with it, okay? Whereas human in the loop requires the students to actually do something with the AI output. And there are a lot of different ways that they might be able to do that. So for example, even if we took the example of the spell checkers, which is typically human not in the loop, right? The human just fixes whatever Grammarly tells them needs to be wrong, just click the button and it's, make it correct. They don't really think too much about it. How can we make that more like it's human in the loop? Okay, well, can I tell my students for the next week, I want you to use the free version of Grammarly. I want you to make note of all the corrections that it asks you to do. Is it commas? Is it prepositions? Is it be verbs? All of those things. Make note, start to recognize a pattern in what Grammarly is telling you to fix and reflect on that pattern. Okay, what did you learn about your writing over the last week? And what are you doing? How did you review the comma rules or review prepositions, that kind of thing? And then the student actually becomes more involved in the learning process. Okay. So that's really our key critical piece: human not in the loop or human in the loop. Okay, so here is my particular framework. Like I said, you can rearrange this and use this. However, you might have other components that you think are really important and you want to include, and that's wonderful. But this is kind of my guiding process for including AI in the classroom. First, I want to define the purpose. Why do I have AI? Why am I using AI in this particular lesson or activity? Determine the student engagement level or the cognitive demands on the student. Evaluate the learning outcomes. That means both what did they get out of using the AI and how did we master the learning outcomes for this particular class or this subject. Okay, and always promoting ethical AI use. It is so important, I think, that we always include information and teaching about the ethical use of AI in our classroom instruction anytime that we are using AI and for any purpose. Okay, so defining the purpose. So ask yourself, be clear about the role AI is playing in your teaching. Are you using it to either kind of streamline something to make it a little bit easier for yourself when it comes to grading, or making it a little bit easier on students, which can sometimes be the most useful way to do it in certain contexts? Or is it being used to drive deeper thinking, deeper critical thinking? Okay, so ask yourself, the guiding question here is, why am I including AI in my instruction? Okay. And then I want you to note the student engagement, the cognitive demand on students for doing this particular activity with AI. It should move away from just kind of the students being a passive recipient of the information and more towards students being active and kind of creating some kind of engagement with the outcome, okay, or with the AI generated product, okay. So you could ask yourself, how does the AI encourage critical thinking, collaboration, or inquiry-based learning? Or how am I encouraging students to question what AI created, critique or modify it in some kind of way? That's a good way to really increase that cognitive demand on students. Evaluate your learning outcomes. Of course, it goes without saying, anytime we're using AI in the classroom to help with lessons, is this still in line with the learning outcomes for this course? And is it helpful to students, not just in this course, but will it be helpful to them to apply this to various contexts, maybe in future classes or in their future career? And then finally, be very purposeful about teaching students the ethical implications, bias, privacy, and using it responsibly. How am I encouraging students to consider the ethical implications? And how can AI affect people, systems, or society? That's a really important question that we ask, especially now while everything is so new and developing. And developing overnight, seemingly sometimes, right? Okay, so I created this checklist, and I'll make sure that you all have it's embedded in the presentation, which you guys all have the link for. And when I first made it, I thought, okay, this is probably too long and has maybe too many pieces to it. But I also thought we're all using this in so many different ways. So perhaps you will be able to kind of find the piece that fits best for you. But it's just a step-by-step kind of way to ask yourself, how am I encouraging each of these higher level thinking pieces into my teaching? And I even have a little bit down here on how are you aligning it with your course objectives? How do you move beyond just automating the tasks, the ethical awareness, all of those things. So just keep this checklist handy. It might come in handy for you later down the road as you're planning your lessons in AI. But right now, let's go to make sure I don't have a question here. Okay. Thank you, Armando. Okay. So we will go into breakout sessions for I think we have enough that we could do maybe 2 breakout sessions. If you want to take a picture of this slide right here, in your group, just kind of briefly introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you're currently using AI in the classroom. And then as I discussed earlier, do you have a particular lesson or a particular learning outcome that you've been thinking, I want to try to integrate AI into this lesson, okay? And I want you to take that idea and ask yourself these 4 guiding questions. Why am I including AI in the instruction? How am I encouraging students to question, critique, or modify the AI suggestions? How am I encouraging students to consider the ethical implications? And how is AI helping students develop skills they need for this course and beyond with this particular assignment? Okay. And if you're not there, this could be something that you're still working through, and that's the whole point. So talk with the people in your group. How could I make this a more interactive, engaging lesson? And we'll come together and talk a little bit about what you talked about, okay? Okay, Armando, am I able to put them into breakout groups, or do you want to do that?
I am setting you as a co-host right now, and I
Okay.
will stop recording as well.
Okay.